What were the Jews' accusations against Jesus before Pilate? This is a question that we seek to answer today as we continue our verse-by-verse study of the book of Luke on Walking Through the Bible. If you have a Bible with you, turn to Luke 23. We're going to be reading from verses 1 to 5. If you don't have a Bible, don't worry. Just follow along with us on the screen. The version that we'll be reading from is the New King James Version. So, Luke 23, beginning at verse 1. Then the whole multitude of them arose and led him to Pilate. And they began to accuse him, saying, We found this fellow perverting the nation, and forbidding to pay taxes to Caesar, saying that he himself is Christ, a king. Then Pilate asked him, saying, Are you the king of the Jews? He answered him and said, It is as you say. So Pilate said to the chief priests and the crowd, I find no fault in this man. But they were the more fierce, saying, He stirs up the people, teaching throughout all Judea, beginning from Galilee to this place. It is now morning. The Jews had Jesus arrested in the Garden of Gethsemane in the middle of the night. They had tried him in the middle of the night, a trial that was illegal. That trial sentenced him to death. Once the sun came up, they tried to make this conviction legal by again trying Jesus. The result was the same, because this was a show trial. The Jews, however, did not have the power to execute someone because the Romans occupied Palestine. Therefore, in order to have Jesus killed, they had to bring him before the Roman governor, which at that time was Pontius Pilate. The role of the Roman governor was basically two things: make sure that the people paid their taxes, and make sure to keep the peace. These two roles will come into play during the events of this morning, so please keep them in the back of your mind. And remember, the Jews had convicted Jesus of blasphemy before the Sanhedrin. This should have been the charge that they brought to Pilate in order to have Jesus executed. However, blasphemy wasn't a crime under Roman law, for Rome was polytheistic and really didn't care about how the people viewed the gods. They really didn't even care which god the people worshipped, as is evidenced by the fact that the Romans let the Jews worship God in the temple, largely unobstructed. So the Jews needed charges that Pilate considered serious enough so that he would convict Jesus to death. Those charges were perverting the nation, forbidding to pay taxes to Caesar, and making himself a king. The charge of perverting the nation had to do with stirring up disaffection and rebellion. How did they think that Jesus had done this? Well, they believed not only did he teach a corrupt doctrine, but that through that doctrine he was teaching the people to hate Rome and want to overthrow it. This charge is not only false, but it is laughable coming from these people who were themselves haters of Rome and wanted it overthrown. Jesus had been teaching the true doctrine of God, doctrine that was based off of the Old Testament scriptures. He taught obedience to government, not rebellion against it. There was no basis for this charge, but since the Jews thought that the Romans would be concerned about a possible rebellion, they laid this charge before Pilate. The second charge was that Jesus refused to pay taxes to Caesar and was teaching the people this. We know this charge to be false as well, for we studied from Luke 20 to 26, that Jesus taught the people to render to Caesar the things that are Caesar's. Jesus always paid the taxes that he owed, even the temple tax that we saw in the book of Matthew. He never taught the people to cheat on their taxes, although he did teach the tax collectors to not over-collect from the people. Teaching this is not leading a tax revolt. Rather, it is teaching the tax collectors not to be cheats, not to be greedy, but to be honest and fair. The third charge was he said that he himself was the Christ, a king. Now, to Bible readers, we might think this charge was actually true, but it wasn't in the way that the Jews meant it. Jesus is the Christ, the Son of God. Peter confessed this. But the Jews were charging him with desiring to be an earthly king. He was desiring no such thing. In fact, when the Jews had tried to make him a king, he refused. Jesus' kingdom is a spiritual kingdom, not an earthly one. For the book of John will tell us that if Jesus' kingdom was an earthly kingdom, his servants would fight. So this charge too was false. But these charges were picked because they would appeal to Pilate's role as governor, taxes and security. Pilate, however, only zeroed in on one charge against Jesus, that he desired to be an earthly king. Is it that Pilate didn't care about the other charges? Not necessarily. But if Jesus desired to be an earthly king, then he would be leading a rebellion and would desire to collect his own taxes at the expense of paying taxes to Caesar. So really the other two charges hinged on this last charge. If the last charge was false, then the first two charges were likely false too. Pilate asked Jesus if he was the king of the Jews, to which Jesus responded that it is as you say. Now John is going to give us much more detail of this exchange, but Jesus answered him in the affirmative that he was the Christ. But John will add that he told Pilate that his kingdom was not of this world. That is why Pilate went back to the people and said that he found no fault in him. Jesus didn't look like a king. He had no funding, and he had no army. Thus Jesus was not a threat to Rome. The crowd, when they heard Pilate's pronouncement, cried out saying that Pilate was mistaken, for he was stirring up the people from Galilee all the way to Jerusalem. Now, if Jesus had actually been doing these things, it is highly doubtful that Pilate would have been ignorant until then. But because they mentioned that Jesus taught in Galilee, this gave Pilate an out in order to avoid a mob. What was that out? Please return for our next lesson. With that, our time is up for today. Lord willing, we hope you'll join us for tomorrow's discussion of Luke chapter 23, verses 6 to 12, as we continue our walk through the Bible, one verse at a time. Thank you for watching today's episode. We hope that you found it edifying and ask that you not only subscribe to our channel and podcast, but that you like and share this episode among your friends, so that the saving gospel of Jesus Christ can go out to the whole world.